It's the Brad and John Show.
It is the Brad and John Show for Thursday, January 9th, 2025. This is the A block, which means we started just after 7 o'clock in the morning. We do the show live 7 to 8 o'clock Monday through Friday, at least when I'm not being held hostage. And we do the show on, you can stream it. You can listen to it on our broadcast station, 104.5. Or you can listen to in the future, you can listen to it on bjshow.co. That's the podcast format. bjshow.video is the video podcast format. John, I have to tell you something you're not going to believe.
Oh, no. What is it, Brad?
I sent you a $1 million check that is only valid today. It says on the check, it has a special notation that only valid if deposited on January 9th. I mailed it to you, and I got guaranteed delivery today by the Postal Service. So if you got the check Friday or Saturday, would not be any good. But today you're going to get that $1 million check.
Brad, that's unfortunate. Well, thankfully, we know that every function of government from the stock market, which I guess is quasi-governmental, but I won't step on my own anecdote, to the post office, to the Francis House School District. They're all open today, Brad.
What?
Now, and in honor of them being open, I'm going to eat a bunch of peanuts. And I'm going to talk like I have an IQ of 43.
I said it again
I'm going
yesterday.
to build a house.
I got some pushback yesterday. Put the poor man in the grave. Bury him. Stop parading his body around North America. Bury the man. And, I'm making fun of the fact that there's no mail service today. The federal government is closed. Are the state governments closed? Are school districts open today? You got kids. Are they in school today? Are they on?
Yeah, they're in school today. And, that's a great question about state government. Yeah, I don't think state government is paying attention to a Jimmy Carter month-long funeral. But I don't know. I could be mistaken.
Okay, here's Brad, the guy who runs a small business, these radio stations, who pinches every penny until Abe Lincoln screams. Okay, John, there's somebody out there who could come up with a number as to how much it costs taxpayers to have a federal holiday that the president just decides he's going to have a federal holiday on January 9th. How many millions, maybe billions of dollars is thrown into the wind by paying people to not work? I mean, do you have any kind of an idea? It's got to be in the billions of dollars, isn't it? Like for one day?
Yeah, it would have to be because you're paying employees to not work that day. Sure.
Okay.
And then you add the ancillary things. Folks on Twitter/X have been talking a lot about the fact that the post office hasn't delivered mail in God knows how long.
Well, that's like MoDOT. We'll talk about that in B block. I was out and about yesterday. Hold on a minute. Say something for a minute, John, while I cough.
Well, the other thing that we should note too, Brad, and I sent this to you via text, but Francis Howell School District did call off classes again today.
Man, you know what? You'd think we lived like in Phoenix, Arizona, where it never snows, and all of a sudden the Phoenix dot or Arizona dot, oh my God, it snowed. What are we going to do? Can we put plows on our trucks? Can we actually get out there and push this stuff around? I mean, how ridiculous is this? But anyway,
it's pretty bad. And real quick anecdote: I drove yesterday for the first time since the major snowstorm. Because how do I put this gently? I've had people come to me instead of me going elsewhere. So, and Brad, the roads were worse than I anticipated. Trying to merge onto various local major thoroughfares was just a disaster.
That is the problem you just articulated. We'll talk about that in the B block. Anyway, that is John Combest, Combest. Put John in front of Combest, put a .com on the end, and you have johncombest.com as his website every single day for the past 23 plus years. He puts together this list. It's like a Drudge Report of Missouri, and we bring in this guy, and what I'm going to say was we bring in this guy who counts down the top three. What's your name again, sir?
I'm Casey Kasem.
And what do you do?
And here they are.
And we start with?
In third place.
Brad, the drama is over in the race for House Speaker. At high noon yesterday, the Missouri Legislature got together and they cast their votes for Speaker of the House. And in a final vote, by a score of 152 to 10, that's right, 152 to 10, John Patterson was elected Speaker over Justin Sparks. So, Brad, yesterday we talked a little bit about the proverbial betting line Our friends at the Missouri Times set that betting line at 5.5 votes. And Justin Sparks got more than the betting line. He got actually 10 folks to vote for him. Now, Brad, if it seems unique or odd that John Patterson got so many votes and it seems that Democrats voted for him, you're correct, Brad. The Democrat nominee for Speaker of the House, which is a woman named Ashley Awney, we've talked about her before, from the Kansas City area, when she was nominated, she gave a nice chat about the fact that she has a good relationship with John Patterson, that she believes him to be a fair man, a man of integrity, and she said she would be declining the Democrats' nomination for Speaker of the House, and she urged the members of her caucus to join her in voting for John Patterson as Speaker of the House. So, Brad, the final tally is 152-10. There were a few people who were AWOL. I think some folks are sick. Benita Applebum, one of the Bosley kids. There were a few folks that didn't actually vote, but a big margin for John Patterson.
And you made fun of me because I said 12. I came closer than your buddy Scott Fawn did, right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Brad. You're quite the legislative prognosticator over there. And here's the thing. 10 votes is more than I think a lot of folks expected. I'll go back to, Brad, and I have a link to it up on the website today for folks who might have missed yesterday's show. It goes back to the fact that if you're one of these people that's extremely online and your world is based on Facebook, like maybe you're a boomer or maybe you, whatever your circumstance might be, if you live on Facebook, if you live on X, and everybody you know loves Justin Sparks and people have told you that Justin Sparks could get elected speaker, this is a good time. And we all start somewhere, Brad. If you're early in politics, take a step back and say, what kind of information was going on in my process that made me think that maybe Justin Sparks could get elected speaker? It's observe, orient, decide, and act. If you got bad information, take a step back and think, maybe I shouldn't just listen to my fellow compatriots on the social media site. You get what I'm saying, Brad?
I hear you exactly. Do you know the little story that nobody talks about? That
I don't.
That Justin is one of the few guys that has the name of his mother.
Oh, like he took his mom's last name?
Yeah, his dad was a clockmaker, and his name was Joseph Time, and his mother worked in the fire protection district. She was an administrator, and her name was Josephine Sparks. So he didn't want to be Justin Time. He wanted to be Justin Sparks, so he took his mom's name.
Hey, you got to make contingencies like that, Brad, because his cousin Justin Case. He's a big contingencies guy.
Well, and he's heir to the Case farm equipment fortune, so that's why he didn't want to be that.
You're exactly right.
Because
Brad, I totally bought into that story. That was so good. You totally got me on that one.
Okay, we done. By the way, can I say something loud and proud?
Absolutely.
I feel like a weight has been lifted off my shoulders. I've been held hostage earlier this week and, haven't been in the best mood and things have been going wrong for me and a lot of problems. But today, I feel like I'm reborn. I feel like a phoenix rising into the sun. And you know why that is, John?
Because they're putting Jimmy Carter into the ground.
No, because we have our legislature in session.
Oh, I know. What a relief.
There's nothing bad's going to happen. Now, here's the crazy thing. If that snowstorm would have happened today, if it would have started at 8 o'clock in the morning, the roads would be clear by 9 o'clock. And if I'm telling you, because now that we have our legislators, our representatives and senators in Jefferson City officially sworn in and moving forward, things are going to be great, John. And you know what? And to the point where I also heard Tashara Jones this morning said on a newscast that since the legislature is in session, she's not traveling anywhere. She's not moving outside the city limits until sometime in I think like the third week of May. I don't know why she'd pick that third week of May, but she said I
have no idea.
She's not going anywhere. She's staying put. And she said that her father, Vervis Jones, will not call her in, once again, like the third week in May or something like that. And that also that Dr. what's his face from St. Louis County, Dr. Page, is not going to do any operations at Mercy Hospital until the third week in March. And no, you know what? The interesting thing about this is Old Vienna has sent me a press release that states that their sales starting today will go through the roof because all the gangbangers will be sitting at home eating riplets and grape soda until about the third week in May, because they're not going to cause any problems because the legislature's back in session, right, John?
Thank goodness. Old Vienna just texted. They said to make sure to say Red Hot Riplets and then say trademarked by Old Vienna.
Okay.
They listen closely to our show. The great thing that Tashara has brought into city government and snowplowing is her dad is actually doing snowplowing now. Did you know that?
Yeah, I don't believe that. Okay.
No, he pushes it with a stalking horse. Speaking of higher education, Brad, maybe it's time to get into story number 2.
Up a notch to number 2.
A woman with ties to the University of Missouri is coming under fire for a topic we discussed yesterday, Brad, the California wildfires. What a disaster out there. Apparently, though, some people are pretty happy about what's going on there. There's a woman named Karen Piper, and she is most recently listed as an adjunct professor at the University of Missouri. Apparently, she used to be a real professor at University of Missouri. Well, she was a professor of English, so if you consider that like a real professor, okay. And then she was an adjunct professor of geography at Mizzou. That's interesting, since 1996. But Brad, when news reports came out that the conservative actor James Woods' house was burning down, this woman, Karen Piper, tweeted, "James Woods' house is burning down. It's karma calling." And Brad, a lot of people saw that and thought that was wildly offensive. Now, a spokesman or a spokesperson from the University of Missouri condemned Piper's comments and says that the university was extending its sympathies to people in California. But Brad, this doesn't do much to assuage the fear of people that say that higher ed types, especially gals that teach, English at a university, aren't somehow completely wildly out of touch. Don't you think, Brad?
John, once again, I say I'm a guy with a bachelor's and a master's. I come from a family that had education ingrained in it. My mom and dad, both WashU graduates. I will say to you kids out there listening who are like maybe high school kids, and I know we have a lot of them out there, don't go to college unless you want to be a doctor, a lawyer, a nurse, or a CPA or something like that. It's a waste of time because they're just going to fill your brain with garbage, and you're not going to learn anything that you can't learn on YouTube or can't learn on Wikipedia. Just, watch YouTube videos all day long. That's how I fix cars. That's how I do a lot of stuff. I don't take a class. I just watch it online. And you know what's nice about it is?
What's that?
When Sam Crack comes on or when the Goon Squad comes on, they don't preach to me about being, left wing, right wing or anything. They just fix stuff and I watch how they do it.
What an old-fashioned approach. Which reminds me, Brad, there is a story that's not in the top 3 today, but it's by the Associated Press, and it's lamenting the fact that, Trump has declared war on DEI. And it's a bunch of people. They went out and they found some people who were angry about it. And they got some kid from the University of Missouri, Brad. He's majoring in black studies. He's majoring in black studies at Mizzou. And he just thinks that it's very scary. Because what if you have a president that leans on universities to get rid of things like DEI and hiring? So, this story is pretty indicative of how the Associated Press is today. One of the authors is from Alabama. Like they did the thing where it took several people to write one story. And one of them is a gal from Alabama her name is Willisha Morris. And I'm sure she's totally objective about DEI. But they have some anecdotes from Missouri as well. But it's a classist argument, as always, from the elitists of, well, these institutions of higher learning were a little different than most people. We're trying to educate and socialize people.
Ask James Carville about that. He will say that's why the Democrats.
Exactly right.
He will say that's why the Democrats lost. Okay, we're ready for number 1.
We are.
The number 1.
U.S. Senator Eric Schmitt was on Sean Hannity last night, Brad, and he must have been listening to Brad Hildebrand's innermost thoughts and rantings, because Eric Schmitt says on January 20th, from immigration to climate change to offshore drilling and everything in between, you can expect a flurry of executive orders from Donald Trump rescinding nonsense from Joe Biden and also putting back in some policies that were there in the Trump administration. Brad, you have talked about the fact that on day one, Joe Biden came in 2021 and rescinded a bunch of Trump's executive orders that made a lot of sense. And now we should expect, according to Eric Schmitt, we should expect Donald Trump to come back in, have a flurry of executive orders, and set things right, Brad.
It is going to be interesting, that's for sure. I mean, you know, there's all sorts of crazy things going to happen. I mean, and let's be honest, some of the Trump stuff is going to go sideways, but the majority of it, I think, is going to hit head on, don't you think?
Yeah, I think so. And you know what? I think that what you summed it up perfectly there, Brad, and that we're going to see some things because there's going to be so much action in the first several weeks. We're going to see mistakes made, and we're going to see some Republicans get mad. We're going to see a lot of Democrats get mad. But there's going to be mistakes. It's the old cliche of if you want to make an omelet, you got to break a few eggs. There's going to be mistakes here. But I can't wait to see what happens starting January 20th.
Well, like I say, if you're an entrepreneur, you know these stories. You know, how do you increase your successes? You increase your failures. And there's a famous quote by the guy who used to be the CEO of Matsushitsu, I can't even say it, the parent company of Panasonic. And he says success is 97% failure. And there's quite a few people that say the reason that there are few successful people and lots of non-successful people is because the successful people can deal with failure and the non-successful people can't, if that makes any sense. I know that sounds sort of counterintuitive. Okay, are we done?
We are done with the top three today, Brad.
Let me end this session by giving a promo to Block B, which will come up immediately after some commercials. I am going to, and I don't normally like to do this, but I'm going to turn the tables on John Combest.
That'll be fun. I love it. What are we going to talk about?
John Combest made fun of me yesterday, and I did a little research, and I find out that the person that should be made fun of is John Combest and not Brad Hildebrand.
Oh. And will you end up by calling... By the way, Brad, when you say I made fun of you, there were 43 things I made fun of you yesterday for. So can you please be a little more vague? Secondly, I hope it's in the pronunciation of boy. Boy, you better listen to me, boy. Come over here, boy. I'm going to whip your behind, boy. You sound like everybody's paternal grandmother from Mississippi in the turn of the century.
Okay, you made fun of me. Okay, we have to take a break.